Welcome everyone to the Public Works Advisory Commission meeting. First one back in person. Do we need to do anything special for announcing ourselves on the recording, April?
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
That was helpful for written minutes.
Yeah.
Okay,
we
so we're
don't-
just gonna do audio on this?
Yep, when we
Okay.
do audio, I can link it.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you. Introductions. I don't see any members of the community, but we do have, I guess, one officially new face. You wanna introduce yourself?
Jim Michaelis. Yeah, I've been here before. So.
I know.
We've seen the virtual face.
Yeah. But now we're here.
I'm glad Jim's back.
Yeah, yeah. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So I guess we do have a quorum since we have 5 members of the committee.
we only have 3.
Well, we have 3 here, so we count it as quorum, right?
Yep.
Because it's based on the number of present members, so we can consider.
It's based on the number of those that are actually officially appointed. So since we have 5 appointed, then the quorum would be 3. That was one exception we made in the recent change in the city
I
code.
remember that.
And it used to be 7, which means we'd have to have 4.
Always have
Right.
4.
Well, yeah, always 4.
Yeah.
But now, yes, actually, we do have a quorum based on that definition.
Awesome. So, I motion that we approve the April 20th meeting and the minutes for there. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jim. And all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, those are approved. I will turn the time over to Chris for PWAC vacancies.
Okay. We just had a little discussion regarding the number of active members. We have 5 that are actually serving right now, and we have a total of 7 in the Public Works Advisory Commission. So we have 2 vacancies. One of those 5 actually is, I think, extending some time in Alaska, and so we probably need to consider that one as well. But we do need to fill 2 vacancies, and we need to take some names to the city council for approval. And I'd like to have just kind of a brief discussion, or at least plant the seed with you here on some additional names. If you have, if you know of some people that you think would really enjoy serving on this commission, or would be a good fit with this commission, might have an interest in serving public works in the community in this way like you are. Just wanted to plant the seed at the beginning of the meeting. We can come back and talk about this as well. But if you have any names off the top of your head, I'd be interested to know. We do have what we call our our dashboard for commissions in the city. And there are some names out there, but I think some of them have been out there for maybe 6 years, and they may not even know that they're even on that list anymore. I'm not kidding. And so my concern is that when we approach anyone on there, they may not even remember or know that they're on that list. And there's a list of maybe 30 or 40 people, and I think there's probably 5 or so that mentioned that they were interested in the Public Works Advisory Commission. Before we start going through that list, I wanted to see if you may have any ideas in your individual realms, if there's anybody that comes to mind as to might be interested in serving on this commission.
Give us a day or 2 and we'll email you suggestions, Chris.
That's a great idea. Okay. As you know, Val was on this for some time. He was an original member, as was Carol. And assuming that Ty is going to be gone for an extended period, probably need to have a discussion with him as well. He was an original member of this team as well. So
Way back when.
way back when, yeah, it's been, yeah, that was about 2013 or 14.
Yeah, 14, I think.
Yeah. So 7 years.
Okay.
And your baby's now 6 years old too, so that's interesting.
My
Time
boys-
goes fast, you know.
My boys are only 4.
Oh, okay.
I just have 4 kids, that's all. Okay, Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
And for the 2021 utility financial plan, I'll turn the time over to Chris, Neal, and Reed.
Okay, Neal and Reed and I are going to present to you on the financial plan. As you're all aware, we adopted our 2017 master plans. I did want to show you before we get into the financial plan where you can find these. What did I say? 17?
17.
I don't even know why I said that. Reed's was 2017, I think, in the stormwater. Yeah, so they were in 16 originally. Then there was an update to the stormwater master plan in 17 because there was a lot of moving parts at the time of that adoption with the abandonment of the West Union Canal, and so we took another several months, up to a year, to do some updates on that and to reprioritize. After that, as you know, in 2021, we recently just approved and adopted by our city council these 2021 master plans. Those are listed out here. If you go to orem.org/utilities, you can find a lot of really good information, and you're going to see that most of this you're very familiar with because this is all coming through the Public Works Advisory Commission. So under each one of these general areas, we have water utility resources, which includes water and sewer, water reclamation. Then under sewer, this should just say, water utility. So that's just water related resources, sewer related resources, stormwater related resources. If you were to click on one of these master plans, these final versions are out there and available. The date on these are May 21, and they were actually approved by the city council in, I believe, in April. So each one of those three are out there. We also have a web page for the water tank that has relevant information, and I think Neal's going to talk to that a little bit when we talk about the capital improvement plans. But I just wanted to make you aware of this general page here. There are a couple videos that need to be updated again, apparently. But as a result of that, we needed to develop a financial plan that would support these utility master plans so that they're not just a really good idea or a wish that we just stick on our shelf and that it gets dusty over the years. We're very grateful for the opportunity that we've had to meet with the PWAC and to have established the PWAC and to have a city council that's been very supportive of implementing these plans, developing these plans, but also developing a financial plan that'll support the implementation of these plans. And so this plan, this financial plan is, last time we did this, we had individual utility plans, one for water, water rec, or sewer, and for storm. This utility rate study has been developed, and it incorporates all three of them into the one document. I don't believe this is actually on our website right now because it's a draft format. It's going to go before, we were planning to go before the city council on the 24th, which is 2 weeks from today. Is that right? Yeah, 2 weeks from today. There was an emergency city council meeting last night, and then normally would have been today on the 10th. And so the emergency city council meeting has bumped this actually because the work session on the 24th, they're going to continue having a work session discussion on, I don't know if any of you saw it last night or are aware of it, but they had the emergency meeting for the State Street Master Plan and the individual nodes at 16th North, at 8th North, at Center Street, 8th South, University Parkway, on each one of those. There were concerns about densities and parking on each one of those, and they approved and adopted a moratorium for that plan. And in other words, they voted to postpone that development of those plans, any developments in those zones, for the next 6 months. So they're placing a stay on anything that's in place right now that hasn't actually been through the application process officially. And they'll receive plans and so forth, but they're not going to review any plans and have any discussions on anything for those next 6 months. As a result of that meeting last night, they've decided to basically take all of the work session on the 24th for that topic. This was going to be presented on the 24th. And so everything that was in that meeting on the 24th has been postponed, I believe, 3 weeks to September 14th. With that said, this is going to go to the council then for their review and adoption on the 14th of September. Just some background there. So this financial plan, we've met with our financial consultant, which is Lewis Young Robertson in Birmingham, and let me make this a little bit wider so you can see it. We did send this out in the event you had a moment to review any of this plan. Neal and Reed and I have been reviewing this, and we have some comments that we've made that are going to be given back to Lewis Young for some clarification and so forth. But generally, we feel pretty good, pretty confident about the direction of this plan. Part of the, we can start with the executive summary. The water, when we did the 3 master plans and updated those, you're aware that the council decided to pivot a little bit in terms of how we're going to pay for some of these projects into the future, and they decided to evaluate the potential of a bond, and they actually had the approval for the bond in April of this year. Bond parameters resolution went before the city council in January. We've had several discussions leading up to that in the months of October, December, January. We got the thumbs up and the green light to move ahead with this plan. And then the financial plan has been on the heels of the capital facilities plan, which were adopted in April. So in this executive summary, you can see that our water rates, let's start with the water rates, they have been modified quite substantially. And I know that there are members of this committee that are concerned with, including some staffers here, also that there's some concerns that the rates, the subsequent rates actually went down for this year that we're in right now, this fiscal year, and they were held flat last year for water and sewer as well. Stormwater's been unscathed by any of this discussion, I think, because it's been pretty modest increases of around 25 cents. And so the culinary master plan, I'll turn some time over to Neal to give some highlights on the financial plan, or financial portion of this.
Yeah, Chris highlighted the continuation of the rate 2020. Isn't that was in 2020, by the way?
Yeah,
That's
and
true.
then
2020 again in year 1, 2030, 2045, very small increases compared to the previous master plan pricing. The 1 through 10 inch meter pricing originally didn't have too many changes anyway, because we were catching up to hit AWWA multipliers. So that stayed consistent, but you'll notice right here, the current rates were 98, 122, 145, and 194. When we were charged with adjusting the rates, we were also charged with decreasing the top tier level, because that's where a lot of the residents who were worried about their water bill being too high were hitting that. So a 15 cent or almost a 15% drop right there in tier 1, and a 15% drop in tier 2, and a 15% drop in tier 3, and a 25% drop in tier 4.
Question for you: why did you drop the rates?
The financial plan showed that bonding for projects now was beneficial compared to paying as you go, saving up your dollars, letting your dollar devalue while the construction costs inflate. So if we could put an influx of money into the equation and build projects sooner, that would save us money in the long run. And as a utility, we're not in the money-making business, and so we adjusted the usage rate to match up the need.
But it's interesting to me because, okay, you've already got the rates high, people are getting used to that, then you drop them, and then now you're going to slowly increase them through the years, you know, where you got the money, keep the money, you know. And it's also good for conservation of water.
Yeah. We
We agree with you.
There are two faces to
It
this
makes a
coin.
lot of sense.
I have to tell you that, I mean, we spent a lot of brain cells and a lot of effort to get those water rates increased. And I'm opposed to this. And I think there's several assumptions in here that really need to be carefully looked at. But I cannot recommend a decrease in rate. I mean,
I agree with that.
This study assumes the city's going to grow 0.5% a year for the next 5 years, but the city's going to realize that 1% a year in water conservation, even with the 0.5% of growth. And I'm going, well, if there's water conservation, it's not going to be applied universally across all the tiers. There's no way. It's going to be on the highest tier. People are going to feel the pain on the highest tier. The people on the lower tier are not going to conserve 1%. They're not going to do it. And so I think that assumption has resulted in an imperfect revenue estimate. And the revenue estimate, I think, is low. And then this also assumes a 3% inflation. Well, that's great. I think we've assumed a 3% inflation, but construction, as you well know, is not 3%. Construction inflation is 7 to 10%. And so if you lower your revenue and you increase your expenses, you got a problem. And I cannot support a decrease in rate.
That's why I wish Brent was here today.
I thought he said he was coming.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I can support maybe holding it steady for a while at the current rate. But I think, and I'll speak very clearly, this is nothing more than political manipulation. Because the city council then can say, we lowered your water rates for the grand total of $7 a month.
Yeah, which is...
That's silly.
We have experienced in the last couple of months some conservation efforts by our residents. We are typically around 55 million gallons a day for a peak throughout the peak triple-digit days. We've experienced right around 45 million gallons a day. So we have had the slow the flow message heard, and the residents are doing some things to do that. The message has been pounded pretty hard, and that probably will wear off its effectiveness at some point. So we recognize that tiered rates are one way to send the conservation message and have people realize it, because going from the original 58 cents per thousand to the tiered structure, we have fielded hundreds of calls in relation to efficiencies of sprinkler systems, leaking toilets. People were recognizing that their bill was more, and they were taking action.
Yeah.
We hope that will continue, even though the rates have been slightly decreased. And I think that's all I'll say to that right now.
I'll just make a couple comments on this too. You can stay up here though. got sewer right now. So just so you understand what happened here in this proposal is it was a 25% increase from tier 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4 was a 50. Was it a 50?
Well, it was a multiplier, so if this was 1, 1.25, 1.5, 2.0.
Yeah.
That's how we
Yeah.
Right.
established those. And that was even somewhat low in terms of our competitive neighbors, or if we were to look at other cities' rates, this tier 4 or tier 5, depending on the community, is upwards of $4. So from where we started in 2015 to where we went to was a good step, and then we've taken a step in a little different direction right now. Hopefully in another 5 years we can reevaluate this and have more discussion and decision making and go from there.
Well, again, I mean, I have the greatest respect for Lewis Young. They're our financial advisors. But I strongly disagree with the conservation effort because it's going to result in lower revenues. People at tier 1 where the majority of the funds are not going to conserve 1%. It might be the tier 4. And so I think they need to go back and reevaluate that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So these are progressively increasing, as you can see, 1, 125, 15, 175.
Well, that's
1.5.
This is 175 now.
Right. This was, okay,
Yeah.
I was pointing at current.
Yeah.
So it went from 1.15 to 2. Now it's going from 1.5 to 1.75. So they're still steadily increasing, but they're increasing uniformly the same amount. So the more you use, the higher your rate is going to be. The principles in place, we can contemplate on a variety of other options here ad nauseum. So, but your point is well taken. And Neal mentioned that we're trying to get this in alignment. I don't know, in the late 90s, these were kind of established. We're trying to get these more in line. So these are the base rates from a 3/4 inch to a 10 inch. We're trying to get them more in alignment with the AWWA multiplier and those respective volumes for those different size meters to make it more proportionate, in alignment with that proportion. So, and we realized that was going to take probably 15 years or more to really get it into alignment. Then sewer is a lot more straightforward than water. Water is the most complicated one with the tiered rate structure.
Yeah, if you recall, in our sewer discussions, one thing we did was move from a sewer base rate per physical connection to a sewer base rate to each door. And that is continuing to stay in place. And then the sewer base rate is not moving down, and neither is the sewer production rate. It is a little bit less than the other master plans projections as far as rate increases go, but the thing about sewer is people don't often look at their sewer as a way to conserve, when really it is a place that you can if you conserve water in the winter. So not only when are you saving water when you're saving water in the winter, but you're going to save on your sewer rate for the entire year at an even greater rate than your water usage, as noted in the 253 per
So Chris,
thousand.
scroll, I guess, to move the screen down so it shows now the other direction. Does it show, is it in the summary where the total sewer influent is? It shows it constant, doesn't change from year 1 to year 5.
Right.
Is that what we want to assume? There's no increase in sewer even though the city is growing 0.5% a year?
Well, interestingly, we've been seeing a decrease in our sewer flows over the last 10 years, and so that's why we kept it where it was. So we have, that's actually a conservative method, is to keep it level, because we have seen a drop. And we've actually seen a pretty significant drop in the last few months. People have actually been conserving indoors with the message that's been sent.
With the drought. So on the production side, we've seen reductions with the water. On the flip side, at the plant where we're treating that effluent, then that is, it's actually reduced down below 8 million gallons. You might recall back in 2000, we were upwards of 10 million gallons.
Right.
Right now we're and I can't explain exactly why, but there's a variety of reasons. Some of it has to do with indoor conservation, indoor facilities with faucets, with higher quality products that are out there. Fixtures, thank you. They're having a significant reduction on that. Not that everyone's actually going out there and doing it, but I'd say a lot of it has to do with consumer behavior, indoor consumer behavior as well. To some extent, we've seen that the rates have actually gone down quite a bit.
I believe it's a hypothesis. It's not supported by anything, that as Orem orchards have disappeared and there's not a lot of surface irrigation, then that surface irrigation is not heading into the groundwater system or the nearby sewer systems as well. You can see a trend as that it's actually reduced.
And I can agree with that, and I'm less concerned about the sewer than I am the water.
Yeah.
But I just noted that the sewer production is held constant for the next 5 years.
Yeah. I don't know that there's a whole lot more to discuss outside of the executive summary in this setting. The details are there, but yeah, that's, any questions on either of those two?
So is this going to get re-looked at and revised?
We're providing comments back to Fred
Okay.
Lewis Young, and we haven't done that yet.
Right.
You can see that it took him a minute to get to us. As we just received this in the last couple
Yeah, we
of
got
weeks.
this in July. Plans were approved in April. And then the water rate was adjusted downwards by the council in January at a in the city council meeting. And then I don't think any of the rates have been officially adopted per se along these lines here. I will suggest that this will...
The FY22 rates have been
Yeah.
adopted with the fees and charges.
Yeah, but not
The long-term
not
rates.
the long term, even the short term,
Yeah.
as for the next 5 years hasn't been adopted yet, and that's what this is doing. So I will suggest that this will be reevaluated at least every 5 years and adjusted. But we'll take your comments, Casey, and if that's the comments of this commission.
I just want the council to remember, and there's not very many that are still on the council, the grief they took in raising these rates.
Yeah.
And if these rates, if the revenue is lower and the construction turns out higher, they're going to go through that same grief again for a lousy $7 a month. That just doesn't make any sense.
That was my thought too. We went through the process of getting the rates where they're at, and the pain's over on that, and now we're going to drop them again and then have to continue to raise them as we go through. So I thought, wow, why do that?
And these are commission-wide thoughts.
Okay, so we have a quorum with that sentiment, okay?
And I'll talk to Tom and tell him my feeling as well.
I knew you
I'll
would.
talk to Tom too.
Yeah, both of us, Jim, let's talk to Tom.
And to Brent, and to...
So before we go to Storm, so as you, I think we all understand that the 30 million is going to help save some money right away immediately because of the construction inflation.
Sure.
Sure.
But the concern is that we've already made it to that point with the rates, and now you feel like we're stepping back before we can go forward again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the forecasting saying, we'll be fine if we step back this much.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Reed, I'll turn some time over to you
So
for
you'll
the
be-
stormwater.
You'll be happy to know that even though we're in a drought system or a drought cycle right now, the powers that be have not demanded that we no longer need a stormwater system. Completely eliminate the rates for that. So.
And it rained recently, right?
And we got 2 inches in an hour in the southwest part of Orem, and had quite a bit of flooding.
Yep. We got
Anyone
flooded.
experience that?
We got a flooded basement.
You're
out of it.
kidding.
Did you really?
Yep.
Well, what's your address?
800 west, 600 south.
Oh, that's the area, right?
Yeah.
So you were right in the
Yeah,
the
we had
target
kids.
path.
We had kids on sleds riding in the gutter, going down the hill. So it was a good time.
When the original plan was adopted in 2016, we created a similar schedule. We bumped the rates up $1 per ESU, and for the most part, each home in Orem is charged 1 ESU. If you're a commercial property, it's however much impervious surface you have divided by 2,700 square feet. That's how many ESUs you're charged. And so back in the day, we were at about $5.25 per ESU. We bumped it $1 and then 50 cents. We increased the price per ESU in the first couple of years, eventually getting it to let's just maintain for inflation, which is where we're at now. It took us about five years to get there. We're 6 years into the rate adjustment, and the recommendation from our financial advisor is to just continue to maintain that. And the stormwater master plan projects are planned to where we'll be able to meet the schedule suggested in the master plan by simply meeting inflation, which is about 20 cents per ESU per year. And the city council hasn't balked at that rate increase at all. So it's fairly straightforward.
How do we compare them to other cities? So
We're actually we're at the higher end. There are other cities that are more than us, but for water and sewer, we're dead last for the most part. For stormwater, we're a little higher than average, but I think a lot of communities look to us, our stormwater program, and our rates, and will probably follow suit and raise them to meet the needs of their communities as well. So it's because it's only $7.60 per ESU right now, as opposed to the water bill, which is significantly more. But it doesn't get much attention. But the water bill is where the city council appears to be that's where they want to hang their hat and tell the citizens that we save them money.
I will remind everyone too that before the creation of this organization, the PWAC, our rates were substantially lower than what, $7.60. They were
just over $5.
yeah, I was going to say even in the $4 range, $4 to $4.50 or so.
When we started, they were.
Yeah, and we were tripping over nickels every
Yeah.
year to try to get those increases, and we didn't get a nickel every year, and we tried to get a quarter, and then they on a good day they said okay, and then maybe not the next year. So we're on a good trajectory. We have a good plan for stormwater. It's becoming more and more complex with regulations and other opportunities to do aquifer search or aquifer recharge, and coordinating with Provo. We're teaming up with Provo. We're going to get into capital improvements right now, I guess, as well. But so it's been more dynamic than I thought it was going to be, actually. And we're involving our sister cities with Provo City and Vineyard City in a lot of these discussions now moving forward, because we have to have some of our solutions are along our borders, and the contours are what they are. So we got to follow the path of least resistance, like the water into your basement, right? So sorry about that.
I noticed that the Provo Bench Canal went dry for about a week or 10 days. I don't know if that influenced stormwater system or if that was just incidental.
It was repairs in the canal.
Was it?
There were 2 locations that were leaking, so they took some time and
That hurts.
to shut the canal down is a big
Yeah.
thing in the canal season.
Yeah.
Nothing. You're good with stormwater, right, Keith?
I can support the stormwater reach.
I don't think we need to go any more detail unless you had any points or discussion items from your reviews. Let's go ahead and move on then to CIP updates.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay. Neal and some of our staff went up. I think, Lane, did you go?
I did.
Okay.
Later after you guys went.
Yeah, I was sick that day, and I won't give you any details, but I'll turn some time over to Neal and to Lane to share with us some of the ideas regarding the water tank. I know that Casey, that Dave Pitcher kind of suggested that we consider looking at Steggell Lily Gardens, kind of a concept for the location of the tank where it is today, which is 4th South and 4th West on it was formerly known as the Farley property. We have since purchased that, and we are looking to start clearing and grubbing here shortly. But we have looked at Steggell Lily Gardens, and I'm going to turn some time over to Neal and to Lane if they wanted to share any of their perspectives on what they've learned regarding that garden.
The original thought process for the tank started in Community Park, as you are aware. That location was going to only allow us to pump out of it, and then we would have to bury that tank pretty low in the ground. This opportunity provides us with some different options and really great options for the city of Orem. If you could look to this picture here, this site is a site in Sandy, and it's located in a residential neighborhood on about 2.5 acres. This tank is 8 million gallons, constructed in about 2004. The idea was to provide a demonstration area for low water use plants, and it's an amenity to the community as a leisure and a passive park. It's not open every day. It's open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and only from about April to October. So they have an employee there manning the station during those hours, and the gates close. There's only one way in and one way out. So there's pieces of this that we like and are moving forward with in our concepting, but we're not trying to build that. If you could go to my pictures there, Chris, and maybe zoom up as tight as you can. The first thing that you'll notice is it is got a security component to it. There are cameras. There's one way in. You sign in and kind of check in with the gatekeeper, if you will, and then you can go in. And I don't think everyone has to sign in, or but
Is it a manned booth where they check you in?
There's kind of a little shack there, and that person is also part of the maintenance group. It's a maintenance intensive, but this is the fence that surrounds the whole tank. There's no access on top of the tank. You can see that this is as you come into the facility. You can see the roof lines in the background there. It's not up as high as the roof lines or anything like that.
How far is it up from the path elevation to the top of the tank?
From the street grade, just a few feet, and then surrounding neighbors, it's as high as 12 feet above the surrounding neighbors. And I think we'll get a feel for that. I didn't have the opportunity to get as many pictures for presentation. I was kind of just snapping a few for myself. But throughout the garden, they have a couple of educational spots where they talk about the water cycle, and here they had planned to put in different types of soil, but they've removed them since, and let the kids feel what clay and loam and sand.
And those
feels
have lids
like.
on them, it looks like.
Yeah, they've got a little plastic lid. But this type of educational opportunity is scattered throughout the garden with different amenities and different landscape features. There were some vegetable gardens and some little hoop houses. But this picture kind of shows that this facility is right adjacent to that home right there, and it's surrounded by those homes. We'll see the aerial here at the end again.
Did they say that the neighbors had challenges or issues with the number of people that would come in?
The neighbors have
Educational
loved the amenities, is the feedback that we've gotten. And some of the staff, as they've talked about how maintenance intensive it is, they've proposed abandoning the grandiose and the magnificence of it, and the neighbors would probably oppose that idea very, very heavily. But you can see in this picture, these homes are down at a certain level of foundation here. This slopes up, and in this location, the tank is about 5 feet higher than the homes. They've surrounded it with trees and vegetation.
Is that a chain link in the back?
This is a chain link fence for this home, yeah.
Yeah, a
Yep.
little more secure.
Yes. Well, the whole side is chain link. The wrought iron that you saw is actually inside the...
Oh, just the tank.
is surrounding the tank.
I see, thank you.
Yeah, so here's another shot. These homes, if you can imagine, that is your first level roof line. That's about 10 feet above grade right there. From the tank elevation over here, bringing that over and into this area here. This is a 2-story home. And you know, if that person is 6 feet tall, you get a little bit of a feel of the ability to actually blend and slope to where it's not a negative impact on the surrounding area, and is actually an amenity.
Was the wrought iron fence then, it was in between the path and the tank? Was it kind of up on the slope of the tank?
This wrought iron fence, most of it is right adjacent to the
path?
circular tank perimeter.
Oh, okay.
It's just a few feet off the reservoir.
It wasn't
Yeah.
up on the hill, on the slope at all?
Mm-mm.
Right adjacent to the reservoir.
But a good note here is this is kind of the corner of the tank, because you have a lot more space in the corners of a square property in a round tank than you do right where this person is standing here. It's a little bit tighter. Benches. I threw this picture in here to show that Provo built a tank and put some stone pieces facade poured right into the foundation. Well, it's not part of the structure, it's just
Form liner.
but it is formed right into the
Yeah.
edge there. So they've got a cap on the tank, and then in order to not have this just straight concrete, put that there, put some bushes, and then a retaining wall. This is not the look that we're going for overall. We might have that much of the top exposed. You got to leave a little bit of room from your cap so that you don't, you can let the water run off. But we would slope all the way up to it and maybe have a small ribbon, if you will, of exposed. And then keep scrolling one more. This is a high-level area of that sago lily tank. You can see this fence is around the perimeter of the tank, gardens surround it, and that is, we haven't come up with a surface design yet. We don't anticipate too many people, except for Google and the surrounding two-story homes, being able to see it. But maybe we ought to have a contest. Submit
For a design, yeah.
submit the
I
ideas.
still like this H2 Orem logo that we have.
The H2 Orem, I like that as well. And then the next one I've just kind of zoomed up a little tighter so you can see. You got to put a couple of access hatches in, and the vegetation has grown up. They have, I don't know if you can see, but they have different turf grasses there with different meters attached to it where you measure the amount of water separately. But overall, I think they've done a great job. Casey, have you visited that site?
No, I have
Ever?
not.
If you're ever in Sandy, on about, gosh, I can't remember what it is, about 9th East and...
Yeah, it looks like
Oh.
1500 East.
Okay, 1500 East and 98 South or so. If you have 15 minutes, it's actually worth a quick stroll around there. And that's the other thing that Sandy had mentioned, is not a lot of people know about it even, except they hold one event there. They hold the Monarch Butterfly release, and they get about 2,000 people that show up onto their 10 parking spots. So it's a little, it inundates that
Neighbors are
area
happy then.
for a minute, but some local do-gooder, I don't know what you want to call them, activist decided that
Butterfly
that would be a
activist.
good event and did it. That the tank is taking a lot of our discussion in meetings. There is a well. It's not going to be as sexy that will go. It's deep, and it will have a booster station to boost the pressure in the central zone, and that's also a big part of the project. But the tank is obviously the discussion point that gets talked about a lot.
Did you prepared that for this meeting, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to go through the details, step by step of elevations.
This is what we come to PWAC for.
Lane, maybe you can talk
I'd like
to the discussion points somewhat related to this,
You
but
know, the beauty of the location of the reservoir now at the Farley Farm is it will give us the ability to not have to pump every drop of water out of that reservoir. Costs money, as you know, to fire up those electric motors. And so with the elevation of the property there at Farley, we will be able to supply our most westerly zone, our spring water pressure zone, and gravity feed that. So that's really a bonus, if you will, with that Farley property, being able to get that extra elevation.
The Reach 2 demands are going to drop as a result of this project, which we were very concerned about. So Reach 2 is a large 36-inch plus line at some locations, and then it goes all the way. It's the aorta of the heart of Orem, okay? It runs from the tanks up at the treatment plant all the way down, meanders down to 4th East, comes down 8th North, 4th North, Center Street, and so forth. It ends up down by 1400 South and 200 East. Yeah. Yeah, right down in that area, kind of by the Chili's. That's about a 12-inch line or a 16-inch line
The
there.
terminus there is 16.
16-inch. So it starts up at the tank, and it makes it all the way down there, and then that feeds everything to the west. into the central zone. The central zone is about 50+% of our geographical area. Would you say
Yeah,
60%?
absolutely.
It's a massive area, and it's the bench area. And then as you go down the hill, we have narrower bands because the elevation drops. So these pressure zones are a little bit narrower and tighter. We're hoping that we can provide all of the water to the central zone and then to the westerly zones as well with this facility. So it's almost like a self-sustaining water source for that area. It might be a little more challenged during peak demands in the summer at 2060 when we're at build out, but up until that point, this is going to be more of a self-sustained area, and it's very, very well thought out, I believe, at this point. We've been meeting with Epic Engineering out of the Heber area, and then also with Hansnell and Luce, who's going to be doing our design on our well, and then also Bone Collins and Associates, who's heading up the design on the tank itself. So we've had the minds of those three groups here banging it out on the whiteboard and stuff over the last few weeks, and we've come up with some really good progressive ideas. We're going to try to raise it up and make it gravity feed all the way out to the west side. So we're not necessarily putting in that gravity system today because the demand perhaps isn't there, but we're going to stub it out and design it as if it is happening today. So anything else, Neal, on water?
I mean, that's all I've got as far as those are three big projects that are going to take the bulk of our attention and money for the next 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Regarding water rec or sewer, we are looking at our water reuse project as well, and the plan was to start breaking ground this summer, but something called COVID happened, and then on the heels of COVID, ARPA happened. So there's ARPA is American Relief Project Act, maybe? What is that? Rescue?
Is the word rescue in there?
Yeah. I just mutilated
Recovery?
it. Recovery, American Recovery something Act. So water projects in particular, water and sewer, are targeted to receive additional dollars. In the state, there's $50 million earmarked and set aside today for qualifying projects. Of course, that can all get gobbled up by Salt Lake City or Provo City with their water reclamation facilities.
We got 20 million.
Oh, did you?
Mhm.
You already got it?
Yeah.
How'd you get that
Not
already?
state funds. This must be a different pot of money.
This is from the federal government.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's
But not
a
issued through the state, though.
Right.
That's a different pot.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bigger pot.
That's the first pot.
This is the first pot, and it trickles down to other pots. We're talking about the smaller pot of 50 million from the state that they're administering, and then they're going to have a second amount of dollars that are going to be made available through the legislation this year. So the water reuse project that we have planned is $4 to $5 million project. We're hoping that we can get maybe, it's a 50-50 match, so we're hoping to get maybe $2.5 million for that. And so we've kind of delayed the project in hopes of gaining some of that money and saving some taxpayer dollars there. So what are you using it for, Casey?
Finishing off the last reach of Central Utah project that goes to Santaquin.
Okay.
60-inch pipe, 3 miles.
Wow.
Bores underneath
Santaquin?
I-15.
Bores underneath.
Santaquin.
How is it going to get to Santaquin?
I-15.
No, it takes off from comes down Spanish Fort Canyon, and then part of it goes to Orem and Provo, and then another part
That
goes
part,
Spanish
okay.
Fort,
It's the
Basin,
ULS.
Santaquin.
It's the ULS project.
ULS, it's the last breach of ULS. Goes underneath the freeway and then to the pond there that's in Santaquin.
Very good. So there's that. Reed, do you have an update on any stormwater?
Stormwater is fairly straightforward with the West Union Canal and West Smith Ditch getting out of business, and we use their conveyance system for our stormwater. We've got plans to divert our flows away from those facilities so that we don't put any water in them. The reason that those companies are getting out of business is because of the lack of maintenance over years has caused them to deteriorate. So if we continue to use them, we would then be liable for any
problems that occurred in those facilities. So the West Union Canal alignment basically follows the city boundary from the Provo Canyon all the way around the south end of the bench, and then back to the north, discharging into Linden Hollow. There are segments that we can't get out of. And segments that are relatively new on the west side that we can continue to use. We helped install those, but most of the older stuff that was historically used for irrigation purposes on the east side gives us cause for concern, and we'll be working. The first projects will be to divert water at the Center Street location and 400 South, 800 South, the University Parkway, and the canal between Parkway and State Street. We'll just be chipping away at those. We have the bond that we have. We did bond for some of it. We anticipate that we'll need to have a larger bond in a few years after we spend our cash down that we've been saving over the past few years. So, but that's the plan for stormwater right now. And we also have some obligations for our Taylor drain. The Taylor family lives on the west side on Utah Lake, right next to Utah Lake, and in the 70s we got an easement to put water through there and have some obligations to that family to make sure that water flows to the lake and isn't impounded. So that's another high priority project for us that we're working on. It's challenging because had we done what we should have done back in the 70s, it would have been a lot easier because the laws are different today that make it challenging to work in wetlands. We're dealing with a conservation easement held by the Nature Conservancy, which the conservator would like to see one thing happen, yet the property owner wants something different, so we're trying to balance.
We're kind of in the middle on that
Yeah,
discussion.
Different and opposite.
Yes, different and opposite. So
I've been there before.
got some challenges in that regard. So, but take it a day at a time.
Thanks, Reed. Any questions on CIP and some of the implementation of these projects?
Not from me. Anyone else? Okay, we will move on then to the facility tours discussion, Chris.
In some recent discussions with our city manager and city management staff, we've talked about having some tours with council, and in probably after the election in particular, but that just kind of started the thought process of maybe we should do that with our PWAC, especially after we get a couple new members on board. If we wanted to do any tours, if you're interested in doing any tours, we would be more than happy to do that at our water reclamation facility, for some of our sources at our springs, the Taylor Drain area, any of these projects. As they start happening, we'd be more than happy to take you on a tour of any of these projects as they're ongoing as well. So
Sounds fun to me.
we just wanted to make you aware of that. And if you're interested in that, then I think we'll plan for that into the future, probably this fall, before the snow flies, getting out there and hitting a few of these projects.
That sounds awesome to me.
I'd just note if members are interested in seeing a large diameter well drilled like Neal and Chris are going to drill in the near future, we're drilling one right now on Geneva Road in 4th North.
I'd like to go.
If you like-
I'd like to go.
They're putting the sound wall in right now. Yep.
That's crazy to see the efforts that they go in to try and attenuate that noise.
How close are you to the residents on properties there?
We're probably 60 feet.
Oh, is it that close? I didn't
Yeah.
know.
So what do we need to do to come see it?
Just let me know. It'd be best if we could all do it as a group and not individually.
Yeah.
It's
When would a
impressive.
good time to go as far as what to be able to see or?
It's going to take 10 days to put the sound wall in, and then then they're going to drill 42-inch hole down 300 feet for the surface casing, the intermediate casing. That's not terribly interesting. I mean, it's neat to see, but 3 weeks, in 3 weeks.
So
it'll
maybe a
be-
month, 3 weeks
Yeah.
to a month,
Yeah.
okay. Maybe we
And
can
then
get-
we're putting in, I told Chris and Neal this, we're not putting in gravel pack, we're putting glass beads in around the well, which we're hoping will greatly reduce the head loss of the water from the aquifer into the well and reduce pumping rates. So,
How deep are you going?
1,500,
And it's, what diameter?
24 inch.
24 inch.
What's your deepest well that you've done on the west side there in the Geneva area?
I think we've drilled down to 1610,
Okay.
but we only cased, we backfilled back up to about 1,500. Wasn't worth it, it's too much clay. Hit that lake bottom down there after a while.
The original lake bottom.
Yeah. Kind of filled in.
And that's all phosphorus all the way up to the bottom of the lake right now. That's all we have, Mr.
But-
Chairman.
But if you wanted to do it like after the next PWAC meeting,
Yes.
then just go down, that would be fine, we'll get that
Maybe we
arranged.
should
Okay.
plan for that.
I like that.
Yeah.
In how many weeks did you say?
If we have the next one in a month, we'll be fine. They'll
You
still be
think?
there.
Is that
Oh, yeah.
is that too soon?
No.
Let's just plan a field trip for our next meeting.
We can do that.
If we have an update or something, we can do it real quick.
But just to give people an idea of what Neal and Chris are gonna be doing over at the community park in that well.
To Farley.
Yeah, Farley, because it takes quite a bit of property to drill a well. So you can see what the impact will be.
Yeah, the end result isn't as,
Impactful.
it's not as a representation of the effort and work that happened
No.
above it, or,
No.
below it.
And you're doing rotary drill, right? I assume.
Yeah, we're doing a rotary mud.
All of these have been rotary on the west side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That sounds awesome. Chris, do you have other business that you'd like to bring up?
I don't.
Okay. Does anyone else on the commission have any other business they'd like to bring up? Okay. I think we're done. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're done.
And
Thank you, everyone.
I'll send a reminder to all of the current PWAC members also to submit any names of any individuals that you think might be interested, and then we reach out to them.
We would appreciate, though, if the city would consider having, taken the PWAC meeting to Ty instead of Ty coming to the PWAC.